91 Chapter 91 You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The infernal sorcerer glared at Gabriel, believing him to be the one who had attacked him before. He was enraged. Throughout the time, he still hadn't spoken anything. Let alone speak, he didn't make a single noise either, despite being so angry. Gabriel frowned, getting a strange feeling from this guy's reaction, especially since he wasn't answering either. Who? Or rather, what are you? He asked again, only to receive silence as his answer. The infernal sorcerer pointed at Gabriel as his emotionless eyes glanced at the person one last time before he was going to be destroyed. Thud with a thudding noise, the infernal sorcerer abruptly dropped to his knees, holding his head which felt as if it was about to explode. Just as he was about to attack Gabriel, that strange pain filled his head, overwhelming him. Are you all right? Gabriel rushed to the infernal sorcerer. What happened to you? The infernal sorcerer was his summoned dead. Despite technically being the owner of the infernal sorcerer now, Gabriel didn't know much. It was his first time dealing with the summoned undead, and they didn't come with an instruction manual. For a moment, he even wondered if there was something wrong with his spell that was hurting the infernal sorcerer. The pain didn't last long, fortunately. The terrifying pain went away just as fast as it came, giving some relief to the infernal sorcerer. The infernal sorcerer raised his head, glaring at Gabriel, who was even closer to him now. He once again tried to attack Gabriel, only to experience that pain again. He once again grabbed his head, clenching his teeth in pain. Gabriel just watched the infernal sorcerer struggle as if he was in pain. He didn't understand why that was happening. The infernal sorcerer wasn't answering either for him to know what was happening to him. There was no way for him to understand why the infernal sorcerer was going through this pain. He didn't have even the slightest clue that it was because the infernal king was trying to kill him. Now that the contract between the two was established, the infernal king not only couldn't ignore Gabriel's commands, but he also couldn't harm him. By now, the infernal king also realized that much after suffering twice. As soon as the pain went away, he didn't try the same thing a third time. He just stood up, glancing at Gabriel, wondering if he had been enslaved. He couldn't accept it. He wondered what his options were at the moment if he couldn't destroy Gabriel or leave. He pointed at Gabriel, but this time with no intention to go back. He made a small gesture as if asking who Gabriel was in his sign language. Seeing the gestures, Gabriel finally understood a few things. It appeared as if his contracted undead couldn't speak, despite having a body that was so similar to a human. He was an intelligent being, but he just wasn't able to speak despite that. I am Gabriel. I am a mage of necromancy. I'm also the one who called you here to help me. Gabriel introduced himself. Honestly, I expected a skeleton soldier to be summoned. I didn't expect you to pass through the door. Not that I know what you are, but I'll have to make do with what I got. Gabriel had no idea just what a massive feat he had accomplished with his summon. He believed the infernal sorcerer to be a weak undead, partially because he was so much like a human. He really underestimated the infernal king. Anyway, now that you're here, we are bound together through a contract. Whenever I need help, I can call you for help. That's how these contacts work from what I understand, he further explained, believing the infernal sorcerer was confused. I'm sure you must be missing your home and want to go back, as the realm of the living can be quite uncomfortable for you. But I can promise you, as long as you help me, I'll send you back where you came from. All I need is a little help. It wasn't as if he could keep the infernal king with him always, since it took a heavy toll on him. Now that the contract was established, he could call the infernal king whenever he wanted, so there was no need to keep him in the realm of living always and to agitate him further. Gabriel promised the infernal king to send him back after they were done with this one task. However, he intentionally didn't mention that he would call the infernal king again in case he needed more help. They were now connected through the eternal spell. The infernal king stood in silence as if trying to understand the situation. Since he couldn't kill Gabriel, that meant he could only help if he wanted to go back. The Infernal King pointed back before clapping his hands together. Are you asking if I'm sure I'll send you back? Gabriel couldn't understand sign language, especially when it originated from the undead. He could only take a guess as to what the Infernal King was trying to say. The Infernal King nodded. Even though the Infernal King was supposed to have a terrifying aura that could spread for miles, no one could sense that aura, even outside the room. It was as if that dark aura didn't exist at all. It was all thanks to the fact that Gabriel was using imitation of the dead, which hid the real aura and used a fake aura so weak that no one even sensed it. Only Gabriel could sense the real aura of the Infernal King, which he believed to be expected for an undead as it was his first interaction with an undead like that. The aura felt like a fresh breeze to him. Even though it was the aura of a powerful undead, he didn't know why, but he felt quite relaxed under the aura, which was hated by everyone else. That's right. I promise I'll send you back after we are done. In fact, by morning, you should be back already. So, are you going to help me now? Even though Gabriel could just issue a command to the Infernal King instead of asking, he didn't. Instead, he tried to win the trust of the Infernal King since the two of them were going to have each other's back in the future. Because it was their first contract, he didn't want to make the Infernal King hate him. It was also a good decision from his side, even though he didn't realize it at the moment. He could definitely issue a command to the Infernal King, which he had to follow, but the more the Infernal King resisted the commands, the weaker it could make their link. It could, in turn, place even more burden on Gabriel's soul, which was already under a lot of pressure from using two spells simultaneously, both of which were constantly active. By not forcing the Infernal King, he avoided a perilous situation. The Infernal King made another gesture, moving his hand slowly as if asking what help he needed. The Infernal King hated the fact that he had to deal with a kid, but now that he was here, he could go back faster by helping Gabriel. No matter how irritating it was for him, he agreed. The Infernal King listened to Gabriel, but so far, it was only that. It was impossible to win the Infernal King's respect by just forcing him through a spell. Gabriel hadn't won his respect, at least not yet. I want to steal something. Gabriel explained the entire situation to the Infernal King, including the fact that they were at the enemy base. He also talked about his reason for coming here and why they were locked here, including the mission that he had. If I want to be able to leave this place, I need to rob the museum. But we can't let anyone know about that either. The Church of Light is right in the city. If they sensed us, we would be surrounded from all sides, and I don't want to face them at this time, especially since all the Academy firepower will also be after us. So we need to do it, and we need to do it stealthily, Gabriel explained to the Infernal King, who listened carefully. To get out, I'll be using the undead swap. So here's the PLA. Gabriel was explaining his plan on how he wanted to get out, but before he could even finish, the Infernal King walked to the glass doors instead, seemingly distracted by something else. The Infernal King glanced into the distance as if seeing something which made him frown. A cloaked figure stood on top of a distant building, holding a scythe in its hand, staring in their direction. No face could be seen on the dark figure, as if there was only the floating cloak. 92 Chapter 92 You are listening at novelfull.audio. Gabriel also walked closer to the Infernal King, wondering what he was looking at like that. He looked in the direction where the Infernal King was looking, noticing a figure standing in the distance. Despite it being dark outside, there was enough light to see the figure, thanks to the moonlight. Seeing the distant figure, Gabriel was slightly surprised. He recognized that figure as it wasn't his first time seeing that figure. He saw the exact figure on at least 2 occasions. It was the same dark specter who was trying to destroy his spirit before he was selected by the grimoire. He saw the figure not long after he had died. In fact, that was also the first time he saw any spiritual being in his life. At that moment, he thought that it was the end for him, but the grimoire saved him. That wasn't the only meeting that he initially assumed was going to be his last time seeing the specter, but it appeared again when it helped him. When Gabriel needed to travel through the river of spirits, the specter was the one who helped him. He still didn't understand why the specter helped him at that time, but he didn't think too much about it. Every time the specter appeared before him, it was for something significant. But why this time? What is it doing here? Gabriel didn't expect the specter to be here and at this time. What surprised him even more was that no one else could sense the Reaper other than them. No mages of light were here to capture him, despite his frightening dark aura and the Church of Light being in the city. He could sense the dark aura of the specter. Unlike him, the specter wasn't hiding his aura. Then why wasn't anyone else able to feel him? The city was a bastion of light. It was the holy city which was heavily protected by the Church of Light. Even he himself could only enter the city, thanks to having the element of light in his attire that hid his aura of death. But what about the specter? It didn't have the element of light. It was the embodiment of death itself. For it to even pass through the barrier of light undetected should have been impossible. Yet, not only did it pass through, but it also entered the academy. And even if the specter was here, it didn't make sense. Why would he come here? Could it be because I called an undead to the realm of living? Is it here to stop me? Or could it be for something else? Do you know that guy? He asked the Infernal King, wondering if the two knew each other, since both of them were related to the realm of death in their own way. It had the highest possibility that the specter was here for the Infernal Sorcerer. The way Infernal Sorcerer looked at the specter, it was as if there was definitely some history between the two. The Infernal King clenched his fist. The being that was usually very calm was showing quite a lot of reaction at the sight of the specter now. He didn't answer Gabriel's questions, as if he couldn't even hear the questions. His body turned into the purest form of flames. The flames passed through the small opening under the glass door, appearing on the other side of the door. It was as if the Infernal King remembered that he wasn't allowed to break the door, which made him choose another way to leave to avoid the headache. Wait. Don't. Gabriel was stunned to find the Infernal Sorcerer leaving. If he attacked or made any commotion, it was going to be quite a headache. Unfortunately, as the Infernal King appeared on the balcony and looked into the distance, the specter wasn't there anymore. He had disappeared. The Infernal King still blankly looked at the place where the specter was standing previously. Gabriel sighed in relief, getting a feeling that the Infernal Sorcerer and the specter didn't have a good relationship. Gabriel was less surprised about the disappearance of the specter as he had become habitual of it, but what surprised him was the trick that the Infernal Sorcerer pulled. And here I was, thinking of a plan to get out. If the Infernal King could get out through the balcony, then that was better. He didn't have to go through extra steps of his plan to get out of this room, which was just perfect. Undead Swap. Gabriel cast the fourth spell. As soon as he chanted the spell, his surroundings turned white. He felt a strange spatial pressure around him, and the next thing he knew, he was standing out on the balcony. Meanwhile, the Infernal King was now inside the room. It worked. Gabriel could feel the cold winds of outside brushing against his skin as he basked in the moonlight. He turned around to find the Infernal Sorcerer inside. Thank you for the help. However, from here on, I'll have to do everything on my own. Just stay inside the room and don't leave the room even if you can. I'll be right back after I'm done. Oh, and don't burn anything inside the room. Just stay there, and wait. There must be no damage to the property. And in case someone knocks on the door, just don't make any noise or try to open the door. Just let them think that I'm asleep. You understand? Even though he was curious about the specter's appearance, now that he left, he let it be. He didn't think much about it as there was another important thing for him to do. The Infernal Sorcerer still felt irritated that a kid was commanding him, but he could only agree since only this led him back home. Perfect. Gabriel looked down from the balcony, noticing a few guards outside the dorms. Ever since the incident from last time, the security was slightly increased. Fortunately, it was still less than what it was going to be tomorrow if the academy didn't find their killer until then, so he needed to take care of the matters tonight. Moreover, tonight he also had an alibi. There were so many people outside his room, which was sealed, so no matter what happened tonight, he was going to be the last person that anyone was going to be suspicious about. He used his ring of Apophis to change his looks once more, but this time, he didn't change himself to look like someone who wasn't in the academy. This time, he used the disguise of someone who was very well known in the academy. That was risky as well since there was a small chance that the person might come before him, which could create trouble for him, but it was a risk he was willing to take. The infernal sorcerer watched Gabriel transform into another person. Through his right eye, he could see the transformed look of Gabriel, but through his left eye, which was covered by flames, he was able to see through all illusions. Through it, he was able to see Gabriel was still the same, and he was just using the illusion. Remember everything I said, and don't leave the room at any cost. Gabriel commanded the man before he moved closer to the edge of the balcony. He climbed on the railings of the balcony and jumped off, landing right behind all the guards. The heavy sound of his feet landing on the ground alerted the guards. They all turned around, alert. Lady Eliana. The men respectfully greeted Gabriel, who was now in the disguise of the person who had the highest authority in the academy. He was disguised as Eliana, the head of House of Light. At least that's what the illusion made everyone see him as. What are all of you doing at the same place, chattering? Is that how you protect the place? No wonder there is no security here. Spread out and less talking. Gabriel scolded the people, using the same time that Eliana was known for. He had seen Eliana enough to know how she behaved. Before these people could ask any questions about what she was doing here, Gabriel scolded them and made them feel like they were caught doing something wrong. The men acknowledged that they were wrong and spread out. Right before their eyes, Gabriel walked away. Not a single person knew how they were fooled. While Gabriel had fooled real guards by using the shock factor, there was another set of guards that were also shocked. The guards that protected the main entrance of the Academy of Elements watched 3 carriages arrive toward the Academy. As for the beautiful carriages, they were so distinct that it wasn't hard for the guards to know who they belonged to. The Church of Water. One of the guards exclaimed. At this time. Why here? As the guards were confused, the carriages stopped. The door of the first carriage opened, and a beautiful woman stepped out of the carriage, dressed in a beautiful blue gown. 93 Chapter 93 You are listening at novelfull.audio. Head Priestess of the Church of Water. The men were able to understand what position the woman held through the insignia on her chest. But they didn't understand why she was there. The head priestess walked to the guards. Lady Elora is here to meet the dean. Please inform the dean. Lady Elora is here to meet the dean. Please inform the dean. Just that one statement was enough to make the guards even more amazed. If a head priestess being here was a big deal, then Lady Elora's arrival was even more incredible. Elora was said to be the name of the new head of Holy Church of Water, after all. In other terms, she was amongst the 6 stronger mages at the moment, all being heads of various holy churches. Is she really here? The guard asked. To him, it was as if one of the gods had arrived here personally. She is waiting inside the carriage. We know the protocol of the academy. Go and inform your dean about our arrival. We will wait. The head priestess turned around and started walking back. Generally, she would have simply asked them to let them enter as it was, but the academy and the churches had a long relationship, and they knew how each worked. Even if they wanted to barge in uninvited, it wasn't going to be allowed. Moreover, this city had the Holy Church of Light here. They didn't want to draw more unnecessary attention than they already did by coming to this city since that was detrimental to their cause. The dean isn't at the academy. Watching the head priestess go back, the guard hastily informed her, stunning her. The head priestess stopped. She turned around, revealing slight anger on her face. "What did you say?" The guard took a step back, subconsciously. For some reason, he felt scared before her aura that momentarily became unstable. Fortunately, the head priestess soon controlled her aura. The guards gulped heavily. "The dean isn't at the academy. He left the academy on some important business, so it would be impossible for you to meet him here." The head priestess went to the second carriage, knocking on the door. The door of the carriage opened. The head priestess entered the carriage. After a few minutes, she came out again. She went back to the guard. "It's fine. We will meet whoever is in charge at the moment, that would be Lady Eliana. I will inform her about your arrival. Please wait." The guard hastily rushed inside the academy, going straight to the castle. That was the place where Dean was supposed to live, but as the acting dean, Eliana was staying there for the moment. Even the guard wasn't allowed to enter the castle without permission. He was stopped by the other guards. After explaining the situation, he was allowed to enter the castle. Eliana was standing near one of the windows, gazing at the beautiful moon outside that was preventing the darkness from taking over. She didn't know why, but tonight she had a really bad feeling for some reason. She just couldn't understand why that was the case. Because of that strange feeling, she hadn't been able to sleep at all. She was thinking about going out for a walk, but as she was about to, there was a knock on the door. She walked to the door and opened it, finding a couple of guards there. Did something happen? Seeing the grim expressions on the guards' faces, she wondered if something had happened. "Don't tell me someone died again. The head of Church of Water, Lady Elora, is here with her entourage. We were informed that she was here to meet the dean, but in his absence, she now demands to meet you." The guard explained the entire situation. If the guards were surprised to find Elora here, Eliana was no different. "Why would that woman come here?" she asked, frowning. She hadn't met Elora before, but she had heard some stories about her. She was very young, yet she became the head of the Church of Water. Her arrival here was like the arrival of the head of the Church of Light, only it should have been even rarer since the Church of Water wasn't established in the Lumen Kingdom. The guards remained silent. Even if Elora was here, they were going to be the last person to know why she was here. They were mere guards, after all. There was no way anyone was going to tell them the real reason they were here. "All right, do one thing. Go and wake the others from the head council as well. Since it's a head from the church, it's only fair all of us are here to meet her," she commanded one of the guards. "Tell them to be here in 5 minutes. As for you." She shifted her attention to the guard who was assigned at the main entrance. "Allow their carriage to enter the academy, but keep an eye on them. I don't want anyone from their group roaming around our academy without us knowing about it. If possible, their carriages should only stop before this castle." All the guards retreated after acknowledging the commands. Gabriel walked through the night, advancing toward the Museum of Artifacts. Along the way, he had once again changed his disguise to look like a senior student as well since they roamed freely without much restriction. He selected the face of one of the third-year students this time, the one that he had seen in the morning when everyone was gathered together. Eliana's disguise could only attract too much attention for now, which he decided to avoid until it was needed. Despite it being midnight, there were still so many students who were just roaming freely, most of them being seniors. Since Gabriel also looked like a third-year student because of his attire, not many people showed any interest in him. It was only after Gabriel started getting closer to the museum that he once again changed his attire and returned to the illusion of Eliana, not realizing just what mess it could cause in the current situation. There were rarely any students in his vicinity, and he made sure that none saw him changing his illusion. Unfortunately, as he stepped closer to the museum, he saw 3 carriages coming from the distance, being escorted by multiple guards. The Church of Water. Even though the carriages were in the distance, Gabriel recognized seeing one such carriage before. They were carriages that belonged to the Church of Water. And if they were being escorted under such security, then could it be that someone special was coming? Someone like Elora. If it was Elora in one of the carriages, then it was a disaster since Elora could see through the illusions of the Ring of Apophis. She could see his true face. 94 Chapter 94 You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Ring of Apophis was a miraculous numen, but no matter how amazing a numen was, they all had one flaw or another. One such flaw of a numen like the Ring of Apophis, according to Lambard, was that the illusion didn't work before the head of churches because they had their souls bound with the grimoires. Gabriel didn't want Elora to see him here as she was definitely going to get suspicious. There was no way she would have forgotten seeing him in the castle of Lambard with Lyra. Moreover, it was also possible that she blamed him for the death of her head priestess. Under no situation could he allow her to see him, even by accident. Moreover, as the carriages got closer, he felt that familiar aura once again. He was sure that Elora was actually inside one of those carriages. The head of the Church of Water was here. He hastily hid behind one of the bushes, taking cover. When he left his room tonight, finding Elora here was the last thing he could have imagined. It was like the destiny was playing tricks on him. Out of all the places, she just had to arrive here. Out of all the nights, she just had to select this night. For a moment, he even wondered if he needed to abandon the plan tonight. There were too many factors at play here. No. I can't give up after coming so far. She hasn't seen him. She can't stop me. As soon as she leaves, I'll continue. As Gabriel was talking to himself, lost in his own thoughts, he didn't sense someone approaching him. Did you lose something? It was only after he heard a voice behind him that he realized that someone was there. Moreover, that voice. He recognized the voice. Maya. He subconsciously exclaimed. You know my name. The person behind Gabriel was slightly taken aback. Since Gabriel was still using the illusion, his voice felt like Eliana's voice in Maya's ears. Fortunately, the carriages had left by now, moving past the vicinity. Gabriel could finally sigh a breath of relief. He stood up and turned to gaze at Maya. He couldn't show any emotions for now. He had more important things to do. Even before Maya, he needed to play the part of Eliana. Ma'am. Even Maya was shocked to find out that it was Eliana. The acting dean of the academy. What was even more surprising was that someone so high up knew her name. You know my name? She asked again. Of course, I would know. I know all the students of the academy, you in particular. Gabriel came up with an excuse to control his blunder. I heard you killed a dark mage not too long ago. We need more people like you at our academy. We must kill all those demons. How dare they exist? Right. The more Gabriel talked, the more he realized that he was losing control of his emotions, and at the time, he couldn't afford that. It wasn't the time. Maya was also taken aback. She didn't know why, but she felt anger behind those words. She thought that it was the anger toward the dark mages. Never in her dreams could she have thought that the anger was for her. There was something even more bewildering for her though. She didn't understand why Eliana knew about it. The Holy Church of Light had asked her to keep it a secret. Then again, she thought that maybe the church itself told Eliana since she was the head of the academy now. She didn't think too much about it. Gabriel also realized that if he stayed in Maya's presence for longer, he might do something in anger that he would regret later on. He needed to leave. Anyway, I had dropped something. Don't have to worry about it though. I already found what I lost, Gabriel answered. You should go back to your room and sleep. If you aren't well rested, how will you learn tomorrow? Go back to your dorms. Ah, why? Yes, ma'am. There was no way Maya could say no to a command that came from Eliana. She agreed and went back to her dorm, giving Gabriel some privacy. Even though she went back, there were still quite a lot of questions in her head. She didn't know what it was about Eliana, but something felt different about her. She just couldn't put a finger on what it was. Gabriel watched Maya leave. There were so many thoughts in his head as he watched her leave. For some reason, only the bad thoughts came to his head. He remembered the moment he was backstabbed when he was trying to save Maya's mother. Noel Deren, that scene had replayed in his head so many times when he was unconscious after being hurt that he had lost count. He took a deep breath, shaking his head. He needed to distract himself now. And what better distraction than his goal? As soon as Maya disappeared from his sight, he came out and observed the surroundings again. There was no one there now. The carriages had also left by now. Gabriel finally reached the museum of the academy, which was also one of the most important places since it was where the Newmans were kept under heavy security. The museum was still being heavily guarded. Fortunately for him, since he was in the disguise of Eliana, the guards didn't attack him. In case he had arrived here as a student at such a time, even he would have been in trouble since no student was allowed to get this close to the museum at a time like this. Gabriel knew that this was a crucial part of his plan. He needed to play the part, and he needed to make sure the guards didn't see anything amiss. He walked closer to the guards, using the same tactic as before. He didn't even give them the time to speak or anything before he started speaking. Is Rem still not here? What better than one teacher? 2 teachers from the head council. To make it seem like it was an important matter that couldn't be questioned, he tossed another heavy name. When Rem and Shinsi arrive, tell them I already went inside. They can meet up inside. As soon as he finished, he didn't even wait for a response before taking a step forward, as if it was his own place. Since Eliana was the acting dean at the moment, even the guards couldn't technically stop her. They were curious about why she might be here at this time, but since other head council members were going to be here as well, they reckoned that it must be something important. Gabriel was allowed to walk past the guards without raising much suspicion. In fact, even he was surprised by how smoothly it went. He entered his final destination. The Museum of Artifacts. 95 Chapter 95 You are listening at novelfull.audio. The carriages from the Church of Water stopped before the Dean's castle. Throughout the journey, the carriages were escorted by the guards of the academy to make sure that not a single person from the Church of Water could leave on their own, unaccompanied. By the time the carriages stopped, all the teachers from the head council had already gathered at the entrance of the castle to welcome the head of the Church of Water. If it were just a head priest, the head council members still would have hesitated in giving these guests so much importance, but as it was the ruler of water herself who came here, they needed to show her proper courtesy. Despite that, there were some who were still discontent, especially with the timing of their arrival. The one who was the most irritated was the head teachers of the House of Lightning Qin. I was having such a nice dream, and I was woken up. Can't these people wait until the morning? Qin complained to Eliana. They just had to disturb our sleep. I don't think they wanted to disturb our sleep either, Eliana answered, standing firm with her hands behind her back. If the ruler of water had to come here at this hour, then it must be something important. We should at least listen to her. I agree. If they came here, I don't think they came here for a picnic. Rem agreed with Eliana. Something important must have happened. Something that can make a ruler of the church come here herself. The doors of the 3 carriages opened. From the first carriage, there came 3 head priestesses. From the 3rd carriage, there came 3 more. Why would she bring so many head priestesses? Shinsi grimaced. Is she here to wage war or something? A head priest or a head priestess was the second in command at a sacred church of element. They were strongest after the ruler of the church. Just one head priest was enough to defeat hundreds of advanced mages, let alone 6. Not a single person in the head teacher's council could understand why Elora came with so many head priestesses. Something didn't seem right. Finally, the door of the middle carriage opened, and a woman stepped out, being another head priestess. There were now 7 head priestesses here when each head priestess was almost on the same level as the mages of the head teacher council. If there is a battle, we would be at quite a disadvantage, Yon muttered under his breath. Even though they were inside the academy, there were only 6 of them, while there were 7 head priestesses, but even counting the ruler of water herself. Even Eliana was somewhat suspicious now, but she still had faith in herself. This academy was their base. Even if the entourage from the Church of Water tried to pull something, they had ways to counter it. Moreover, the sacred Church of Light was also nearby. If the mages of water actually attacked the academy, it was going to cause an all-out war of the Lumen Empire with the Church of Water, which even the Church of Water couldn't afford since the academy and the Holy Church of Light were going to fight together on one side. Moreover, just because the dean wasn't here didn't mean there were no defenses at the academy to hold a ruler of element back. Also, it wasn't as if the dean was never going to return. If Elora tried to pull anything here, they were going to burn all the bridges in between. Another person came out from the second carriage. A beautiful blue-haired woman stepped out of the carriage, donning an exquisite blue gown wrapped around her figure. Her deep hazel eyes observed all the teachers of the head council. She was Elora, the ruler of the element of water. Elora could feel the unease on the faces of their hosts. She also understood just what could be making them uneasy. She did come with a heavy entourage at such a late hour, after all. Despite their uncertainty, Eliana stepped forward, reaching out her hand. "Welcome to the academy, Lady Elora. I am Eliana, the dean of this academy in the absence of Lord Eisen." Eliana introduced herself before turning to the others. They are the head council members and leaders of their respective elemental houses. He is Rem, from House of Earth. Right next to him is Lisen, from House of Wind. One after another, Eliana introduced all the head council members. Elora greeted them all with great respect. Surprisingly, her reaction was quite different at the moment than it was in the past when Lambard introduced Gabriel and Lyra. Since these people held important positions at an important organization, she did greet them properly instead of ignoring the introductions. Elora also introduced people from her side, starting from Joan, who was on her right. Joan was also the closest to her at the moment. Other than Elora, Joan was the one other person who had seen Gabriel and Lyra before since she was in Lambard City with her. "It's good to be here." Elora smiled. "Is there a private place where we can talk?" "Of course. I was informed that you came here to talk to our dean. In the absence of Lord Eisen, I might be handling the administration, but the entire head council is responsible for the academy. I hope you won't mind if they accompany us as well." "Ah." Elora seemed somewhat hesitant with the proposal. She just wanted to deal with one person since many uncertain factors could come into play if there were more people in the equation. It was much easier to deal with one person. "I am afraid I would have to decline the offer. I'm here for something which I am not comfortable telling more people than I need to. I only wanted to talk to Lord Eisen about it, but since he's not here, I came to talk to you as I have no choice. Can just the two of us talk?" 96 Chapter 96 You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Infernal King was left inside the room all alone with his thoughts. He just stood near the glass window, gazing outside. It was the world of the living. The realm where an undead like him shouldn't have been. Even the air of this place was disgusting to him. Fortunately, he appeared to control himself well, despite being in a place that he hated. He didn't try to leave anymore. If all he needed to do was to spend the night in the room, then he was going to do it. However, he did keep glancing back at the place where he had seen that specter before. Not long after Gabriel left the room, the Infernal King felt another powerful aura getting closer. The aura was strange. It was filled with life, yet it was something that he could feel being quite powerful. The aura was definitely stronger than what Gabriel had at the moment. He was really curious about just what kind of people there were in this realm and who had that peculiar aura, but he controlled his curiosity. For someone like him, who often did what he wanted without caring about a single thing, it was quite challenging to stop himself. The Infernal King didn't know that it was someone who was considered to be something akin to a god in this world. He was sensing the aura of Elora, despite being so far away. The Infernal King stared at the moon, which was so different here. They also had a moon in their realm, but their moon was quite different. Their moon was a darker shade of red. The Infernal King was distracted by the moon, but he soon came out of his daze as he sensed another presence in the room. He swiftly turned around, noticing that the specter was now inside the room. The specter just floated in the air as if observing the Infernal King from closer. The Infernal King clenched his fist. "It's you." Shockingly, the Infernal King spoke at the sight of the specter. His voice was slightly hoarse and made it seem as if he really did have a hard time communicating, but he could at least speak. Despite being able to speak, there was not a single person who had heard his voice. At least no one other than the ones that were present in the room at the moment. Without thinking twice, the Infernal King attacked the specter, but before he could even get close, the specter again disappeared. The specter disappeared from the room, leaving the Infernal King all alone. The Infernal King could still feel that presence though. He once again turned to the glass doors, noticing the specter standing on top of the same building as before, once again. The Infernal King was so uneasy for some reason that he was showing expressions that he had never revealed before. It was as if he knew that specter. Not only did he know the specter, but he also appeared to have an intrinsic hate for the specter. In his anger, he decided to chase after the specter and leave the room. Unfortunately, just as he was about to attempt to leave the room, he felt that dreaded headache again. Despite the pain, he didn't fall to his knees this time, but he also couldn't leave the room. The more he thought about it, the worse that pain became. Ultimately, he took a step back, breathing heavily. He was like a caged bird who wanted to leave but couldn't. He hated it. The specter's figure flickered. The next moment, he appeared on the balcony, on the other side of the glass door. The specter didn't seem to be mocking the Infernal King though. It was as if he was trying to tell the Infernal King something. The Infernal King stepped closer to the glass door, realizing something. So what if he couldn't leave the room? That didn't mean he couldn't do anything else. The flames in Infernal King's eyes flickered even brighter, getting slightly darker as well. If he couldn't leave the room, he was going to destroy the specter without leaving the room. He raised his left hand. As if copying him, the specter also raised its left hand. As soon as the specter raised his left hand, a mountain of pressure landed on the Infernal King that pressed down on him. He was as if the pressure wanted to force him to his knees, but the Infernal King resisted. A dark fire lit up around the Infernal Sorcerer, giving him what seemed like an armor of flames. The flames made him fight the pressure as well. Despite the pressure, the Infernal King was able to stay standing. Another fire lit up at the moment, but that fire was around the specter. The fire was similar to the fire that burned the dampers to ashes. Just like the dampers, the specter didn't move even as the fire burned around his body. Surprisingly, the Infernal Sorcerer was so precise in his control of the fire that the fire didn't even touch the floor, leaving no burning marks on the balcony floors. Even though the Infernal King was trying to kill the specter, he still had the help that Gabriel wanted in the back of his mind. Gabriel had told him the plan, and there needed to be no stranger evidence left behind that he left the floor. The burning marks outside could have been hard to explain, making the Infernal King only target the specter. If the Infernal King didn't have to be so precise because of Gabriel, someone like him would have destroyed the entire building with the specter in his rage, maybe even the whole academy. The specter stood in the middle of the flames, not even attempting an escape. However, the outcome with him was different. The dampers couldn't leave because they didn't even know they were being burned. Their consciousness was distracted by the Infernal King, but this wasn't the same with the spectre. Even the Infernal King couldn't sleep the spectre's mind hostage. The spectre stayed there out of his own wish. Boom! The pressure on the Infernal King only intensified as well. He couldn't help but take a few steps back to balance himself. 97 Chapter 97 You are listening at novelfull.audio. The fire around the spectre disappeared. There was not even a single sign of the spectre being harmed, let alone being destroyed. It was as if even the infernal flames failed even to touch him. The spectre passed through the glass doors, floating closer to the Infernal King. Eliana glanced back at the other head council members. She was just an acting dean. If Elora was here with an important request that needed the authority of a dean, then she didn't feel comfortable handling that herself. She wanted the entire head council to be there, so a consensus could be made for them. If you're here for a minor matter, of course, we can talk alone. Eliana agreed, but she added a condition. But if you're here for something that requires me to use the dean's authority over the academy, then I'm afraid I would have to keep the head council with me. We take important decisions together. Elora was quite disappointed with the response. If she was here at this time, of course the matter couldn't be small. She needed the help of the dean of the academy. With her condition, Eliana had indirectly rejected her offer of talking alone without explicitly rejecting it. Elora let out a sigh, thinking about it for a minute. Fine. All of them can be there. Ultimately, she could only agree. She was here to take their help, and she couldn't do that by forcing them. That's great. Please come inside. Eliana escorted Elora and the others inside the castle. The head council members accompanied them, quite curious about what Elora was here for. From her response, it was clear that Elora was here to ask for some help from the academy. And a significant help at that. Both the groups had 8 people in them. The group from the Church of Water was led by Elora, while the group of head council was being led by Eliana. The 16 people entered the meeting hall where Eliana had declared her verdict about Can's test in the morning. The doors were closed after everyone took their seats, with Eliana and Elora sitting face to face. We can talk about anything here, and the news won't get out of this room. So you can talk freely. Elora sat with her hands on the table, gazing at her fingers as if trying to think of the best way to raise this topic. She seemed a bit distracted about something as well. All the head council members waited for her to speak. After a brief period of silence, Elora finally spoke. You might be wondering why there are so many head priestesses with me outside the church. That thought did cross my mind, Eliana affirmed. A head priestess of ours was killed, Elora answered. Not too long ago at that. Eliana and other head council members were taken aback. Head priest and priestesses weren't ones that could be killed that easily. They were pretty strong, after all. A battle with a head priest from another church? Chin asked. That can explain it. If a head priestess was killed, it could be possible that another church was involved since they had the strength needed. But why would someone kill a head priestess from the Church of Water? Shinsi shook her head. That won't make sense. No church would do something like this to someone from another church, especially someone at such a high position. She further stated, that makes me think it wasn't the work of another church. You're right. You don't have to guess anymore. We already know who the culprits are, Elora chimed in. It was a group of 2. One of them was a dark mage for sure, maybe even both of them. A dark mage that killed a head priestess. Are there still such strong dark mages left? Xian asked. That's intriguing. Surprisingly, it's the second time we are hearing of dark mage today. Apparently, a dark mage also killed a priest of the Church of Light in a small village, Rem chimed in, remembering reading about something similar in Horan's file. Could it really be a coincidence? Or could it be that the Church of Darkness is trying to make a return? I'm not sure. But the dark mage lured Rui behind them. By the time I found out, she was already dead. I tried to find them, but as you might expect, it's not easy, Elora further explained. Is that why you're here? How can we help you with that? If you couldn't find the dark mage that killed your priestess, how can we? Eliana appeared confused. Just how was that related to the help the church needed? She didn't understand. We don't need your help to find them. Elora smiled in response. It seemed as if these people were underestimating her. She continued, we will find that person ourselves. I was just explaining the reason for so many to be accompanying me. Apparently they are concerned that the Church of Darkness might be making a return and might target me. So they insisted on accompanying me here. So if you were worrying about their presence here, don't be. We aren't here for war, she once again assured Eliana. As for why we're actually here. It's because we need to borrow an item from your museum for a few minutes. We only need to use it temporarily. The item won't even leave your museum, that I can assure you. If you want, you can also accompany us to make sure we don't do anything else. Gabriel entered the Museum of Element, entering the ground floor where he had been in the morning. The guards seemed different at the moment, but their positions were the same. He walked to the stairs. Once again, he could feel the eagerness of his ring. He was getting closer to what it wanted. With each step he took, he was closer to his goal, but he still had to take care of the guards. That was his biggest concern at the moment. He reached the main floor. The hall where the most important of Newmans were kept, but as soon as he stepped into the hall, his expression twisted. 98 Chapter 98 You are listening at novelfull.audio. The place was different than he had imagined. The guards. All of them were lying on the ground, unmoving. There was not a single droplet of blood on the floor, which made it appear as if they were simply sleeping. It didn't make sense for all of them to fall asleep at the same time, which made Gabriel assured that either they were dead or they were unconscious. He also noticed another person in the room, the only person who wasn't lying on the ground. Leland was standing near one of the Newmans, holding the box that Gabriel wanted. There it goes. Leland was slightly distracted by the box as if he needed all his focus to open the box. And surprised, he even managed to succeed in unlocking the box, which was said to be impossible to open. Gabriel didn't know why Leland was here, but he couldn't let Leland take what was in the box. Before Leland could open the unlocked box to reveal what was inside, Gabriel attacked with a spell of light. A sphere of pure energy shot to Leland. Sensing the attack, Leland finally came out of his daze. He subconsciously stepped aside, without even looking where the attack was coming from. It was as if his battle sense was just so good. Unfortunately, it appeared as if he had misjudged this time. Even though the sphere of energy missed him, it did manage to hit the wooden box. The wooden box flew from the hands of Leland, falling into the distance. You! Leland glared at Gabriel. I told you that you mustn't create obstruction in my path. At the moment he was distracted, the box fell to the ground, opened. The items inside the box fell out, being two beautiful crystal orbs. However, one of the two orbs was white. The other one was pitch black. Still affected by the impact, both the orbs went in different directions. While the white orb rolled to the wall in the back, the black orb seemingly rolled much farther. By the time Leland turned around, he saw the box, which was completely empty by now. His eyes roamed the entire surrounding, trying to locate something. He only sighed in relief as he saw the white orb. Since the black orb was now behind one of the pillars, he couldn't see the black orb. It was as if he didn't even know the existence of the black orb and only cared for the white one. Gabriel, on the other hand, saw both the orbs. He wondered if the orbs were what the grimoire was after. He ran toward the white orb as well while attacking once again. Unfortunately, it seemed Leland was prepared for the attack this time. He raised his left hand. Shield of Purity. He raised his left hand. A majestic white shield appeared before him, which blocked the attack of Gabriel. For some reason, Gabriel had already slowed down by now. The closer he got to the white orb, the more he realized that something was wrong. His grimoire was reacting much less now. It was as if the grimoire wasn't after the white orb. He wondered if it was the black orb in the box that attracted his grimoire in the first place. Despite this revelation, he still wanted to retrieve the white orb. Whatever it was, he believed it could be of use sooner or later, even if his grimoire didn't want it. At the same time as protecting himself, Leland also cast another spell. Judgment of Light. Gabriel was close to the white orb when around 10 floating swords made of light appeared before him. The light of the swords was so bright that it was blinding. The 10 swords flew to Gabriel like they were arrows that left a bow with the intention of killing the enemy. Shield of Undead. Gabriel had a weak shield of light, but he didn't use it at this point. He was sure that the low-tier shield of light couldn't stop the swords, which made even him feel like he was going to die if he didn't stop them. Hundreds of dark spirits came out of his majestic ring, forming a shield before him within a fraction of a second. The screeching sound of the spirits was so loud that it should have been heard for a long distance. Despite that, even the mages on the lower floor weren't able to hear it. As soon as Leland arrived on this floor, he had already cast a spell on this floor to make sure no noise went out of this place. The unholy shield of dark spirits gave the best layer of defense to Gabriel. It was the strongest protective spell that he had, which blocked the attack of light. Despite that, it didn't have an easy time. Gabriel didn't use his staff or his grimoire to cast the spell, so its potential was quite limited with how he used it. As expected. Leland muttered, seeing the dark spirits protecting Gabriel. It was as if he wasn't surprised in the least. In the meantime, he also picked up the white orb that fit perfectly in his palm. Elora placed her request before Eliana and the head council teachers. All she wanted was the right to use one of the artifacts that the academy possessed, and only for a little while. The decision was for Eliana to take now. All Elora could do now was to wait. However, she was sure that they were going to agree. It wasn't as if she was permanently asking for the artifact. She was going to use it here and then return. Can you excuse us for a minute? Eliana left the room with the other teachers to discuss in privacy. Outside the hall, she discussed with the others if they should give permission. I don't think there is any risk in that. The artifact she wants to use isn't a particularly dangerous one. I think we should take her to the museum right now and let her use it for a few minutes so we can be done with it. Eliana suggested. We will all be with her. I doubt she will do anything stupid. 99 Chapter 99 You are listening at novelfull.audio. I don't know. We are literally talking about taking her to where we keep all our Newmans. I also agree that she won't pull anything stupid, but still. Why should we help her? Jan asked. We are supposed to be the neutral party. If we allow her to use something, what's stopping other churches from coming tomorrow and asking the same? I agree. Cheen stood with folded arms, nodding. If we do it now, it'll establish a precedent, which might become a pain in the neck in the future. It can be a real headache, you know. Shinsi also agreed. Agreed. If we allow Elora, we'll have to allow other churches, or we'll look biased. We can't just say no to them for such a small request. But I do agree as well. It will establish a precedent, Rem agreed as well. But I think we won't have to worry about that precedent much. Why not? Shinsi asked as everyone looked at Rem, wondering just how he came to that conclusion. The dean isn't here. We are temporarily managing the academy. The decisions we take don't establish much of a precedent that can't be avoided since we don't have the ultimate authority, Rem explained briefly. In other words, when Lord Eisen returns, if he disagrees with what we did, he can just say that we were wrong. And if another church comes to ask for the same thing, it can be claimed that we naively acted on our own and we were wrong. Even though it would look slightly bad on our part, but the Academy won't look biased. I'm sure Lord Eisen would have agreed with what I'm saying as well. Since we aren't him, our decisions at the current moment don't hold much of an importance. As Rem clarified, everyone seemed to finally understand what he was trying to say. They weren't the dean of the Academy. The dean could say that we acted on our own here since we didn't know better, and he won't have to worry about this precedent. I think Rem is right. Lisan also chimed in, and to no one's surprise, he agreed with Rem. However, he further clarified as well. Elora came all this far, at a time like this. It won't be good optics if we send her back without agreeing to such a small request. Also, we can ask her not to mention what happened here outside and that it is going to be a one-time thing. That should take care of most of the problems. Everyone in agreement? Eliana asked. For one, she did agree with the proposal, but just to be sure, she wanted to get everyone's agreement. Oh, what the heck. We are already up. I don't want this disturbance in my sleep to be for nothing. Just let her do it so we can send her back fast. Chin also voiced his agreement in the end. Not long after, the others also agreed. If that's what others want, then I also agree. We can help Elora this once. As everyone was finally in agreement, Eliana entered the hall again. All the house leaders took their seats. We have come to a decision. We can grant your request, but as you may expect, we have some conditions of our own. Elora smirked. I expected that. So, what do you want in exchange? She believed that the Academy's conditions were no more than the things they wanted in exchange for this. We don't want anything in exchange. At least not yet. Treat it as a favor. In the future, if we ever need a favor, we want your promise as the head of the Church of Water that you will do that favor. As long as it's within my capacity and doesn't harm or place the church at risk, I will. Elora seemingly agreed right away. Second, you won't tell anyone what happened here since it's a one-time thing. The news that we helped you should only stay with the people who are here. If anyone else gets wind of this, don't worry. We would be the last people to want others to know about this. You don't have to worry about that. Elora agreed to the second condition as well. Anything else? One last thing. Eliana nodded. She glanced at all the head priestesses, observing their expressions before speaking further. Only you will be taken there. The others must stay in this place. Agreed. But. Seeing Elona agree right away, Joan tried to say something to make her reconsider. She didn't want Elora to go alone. Even though it was the Academy, she didn't feel it was safe for her. However, before she could speak more than one word, Elora gestured for her to stop speaking. For now, Elora wanted to be done with it. Moreover, it wasn't as if she was scared to go alone. Anything else? She asked Eliana. Eliana shook her head. That would be all. Shall we get going then? Elora stood up before everyone else. Eliana also stood up along with the head council members. Elora had a limitation on her that she had to go alone, but Eliana didn't. She was taking everyone with her, just for the safety of that place. The head priestesses were left behind, instructed by Elora to stay in the room and not go anywhere else. More mages from the Academy were also assigned there to keep an eye on them. The group left the castle, advancing to the museum. Dnov without having the need to call out his ancestral staff, Gabriel managed to block the attack using the Shield of Undead. It was slightly surprising for Leland to see a spell that used the spirits like that, even though he quite expected Gabriel to be able to block his attack. The evil spirits were immortal in a sense. They were also great at consuming natural energy, which was used by the spells. That made the Shield of Undead one of the best protection spells against magical attacks, despite it being a low-tier spell. As Leland analyzed the spell, being slightly distracted, he also picked up the white orb, still not noticing the dark orb. 100 Chapter 100 You are listening at novelfull.audio. The swords of light didn't penetrate the shield made of spirits. Gabriel was unharmed. The only change that could be seen was that he was pushed a few steps back. The swords were destroyed. Right after, the spirits also disappeared, returning to the ring. The dark spirits didn't look like they wanted to go back inside the ring. Instead, it was more as if they were forced to return by the ring. The screeching of the spirits disappeared as the spirits returned. Gabriel noticed the white orb already in the hands of Leland. Another thing he noted was that Leland wasn't even attempting to get the black crystal, as if he didn't even know about its existence. "Give me that orb," Gabriel commanded. However, this time he also called out his ancestral staff as well. A majestic staff appeared in his hand, strengthening him even more. Now that his identity as a necromancer was already revealed, he didn't care about calling out his ancestral staff. "I'm afraid I won't be able to do that, even if it's you," Leland calmly answered. "I came all this way just for this. Do you think I can return it now? Also, I don't think you even know what this is, do you?" Gabriel tightened his grip around his staff, but that only prompted Leland to speak further. "Let me guess, you're now thinking about attacking me to take the key back?" Leland asked, letting out a sigh. "Although I would have loved to go against someone like you, I am running a little short on time. And if I kill you, he would be quite angry. I don't want to deal with that mess for now. Whatever, maybe next time." As soon as Leland finished, a blinding formation appeared under him, which filled the entire place with light. Even Gabriel was momentarily unable to see anything. Despite being unable to see, Gabriel attacked. Within a few moments, the blinding light disappeared, revealing a completely vacant room where no one could be seen other than him. Leland wasn't in the room anymore. Gabriel looked all around, unable to find him anywhere. He looked back at the door, wondering if Leland had run away. However, that was impossible. How could he leave without being stopped by the guards outside? That also raised another question. How in the hell was he able to enter in the first place without being seen? A teleportation spell. But if he had that, why didn't he just the orb last night? What was different today than last night? The only thing I can think of is that we were brought here for a trip. Ah, could that be it? He must have left a mark here. The teleportation spell can only take him to the marks he left. Either that, or he can only teleport to the places he had been to. That could explain why he didn't steal the orbs last night. He couldn't find a way to enter. That also explains why the guards downstairs had no idea about what was happening here. But still, teleportation spell. The tier of that spell. If I'm not wrong, it must be an advanced tier spell. Gabriel walked closer to the black orb that was still lying behind the pillar. Immersed in his thoughts, he was trying to find the answers to his questions. That means he will be an advanced tier mage. That will place him in the same league as Lyra and the teachers. Just who was that guy? He gazed at the black orb which was lying on his feet. The ring was going crazy, asking him to pick it up. He came all this way, taking risks of stealing something from the academy. And even after he got here, all he took was the stuff in the box. He didn't even touch any other Newman here. He also addressed that orb as the key. Key to what exactly? Gabriel bent forward, using his right hand to pick up the black orb. As soon as his fingers touched the black orb, Gabriel felt something strange. For a moment, his vision turned dark, as if he had lost his eyesight. Some strange scene started flashing before his eyes. In one of the scenes, he saw a small girl running. The scene only flashed before his eyes for a millisecond, making him unable to see anything. In the next scene, he saw water. There was water everywhere. It was as if the water had swallowed an entire city. The third scene seemed even more bizarre to him, where he saw 1,000 feet tall lightning beasts. Just a glimpse of them. In the fourth scene, he saw a black door. There was nothing more. After the brief flashes of these four scenes, Gabriel finally returned to his senses. He gazed at the black crystal before him, picking it up. His body seemed to be filled with some mysterious energy as he picked up the black orb. He didn't know why, but it felt as if his spirit strength was being replenished by the black orb. Not only was his spirit strength replenished, but it also increased. It was similar to what he felt when he used the spirit crystal, but only more majestic. Before long, he felt like something had happened inside his body. His spirit strength had increased, achieving a breakthrough. His mana reserves also increased. He had reached the middle stages of spiritual strength. He had become a mid-tier magician, achieving a breakthrough from the beginner level. In merely 2 days, he had achieved 2 breakthroughs. As he achieved the breakthrough, the orb stopped supplying energy to his body, as if that was all it was going to do, but it still looked as mysterious as before. Just like I wasn't attracted to the white orb, he wasn't attracted to the black. That could be why he didn't see it. But still, just what are these things? This can't just be a stronger spirit crystal. If it were, I would have been attracted to the white one too. I also have element of light, after all. These must be the secondary effect of these things. As for the primary effect, it's something related to the word he described them as. A key.